All right, you join the fray, and there's all this there's music going on, and people are singing songs, and it's a fun time. People are drinking. They've changed the limit to 3 cups instead of 1 to compensate for the lack of edible food tonight.
Sweet, so we got a bunch of drunk guys climbing.
Well, no, they're not. Nobody's drunk, and remember, if you're coming on to your shift, you're not supposed to drink too much. But it's mostly water.
Off of ours, yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's water with some rum in it, just to kill the bacteria.
As a Bismarck follower, Patrick would always like toss a little splash on the deck for for Bismarck. It's kind of a.
Okay.
Does she do that within my sight?
It's just a splash, not the whole thing.
But I come over with my mop and I'm like,
it's wet.
And Sandara Quinn sees you do that, and sometimes you'll catch Sandara looking at you, not like the way that Rosie looks at you, but
can't take 2.
Sandara sees you and she nods that recognition that we're your followers, and you notice that there's actually quite a few people who at least will sort of pay homage to Besmara.
Yeah, she's not. People aren't real devout like
right.
Paladin or something. It's just kind of might throw a coin over everyone something just to keep the sea monsters away or something.
Right.
It's not a real devout religion, I guess.
Right. That's a good way to say it. So
superstition more than.
Right. So all right. So let's say that the most of the people kind of head down to, or that day shift head down to bed, and the night shift is ready to take over. Croup is up drinking, actually with Cutthroat Grok, who's that orcish, the half orc, but you're not sure what the bottom half is. Yeah, and he and Cutthroat Grok seem to hit it off real well. They've been friends for a long time, you can tell. And so she comes to the galley and drinks a bit. And I guess you head to bed.
I'm gonna go sit up on the deck for about an hour. Just
okay.
Kind of get some fresh air and look at the blackness of the ocean.
Yeah.
For about an hour, and then I'll go to bed.
Okay.
That's deep.
So my character would
I know, but
it's very deep. You're out in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah. A witch is probably gonna meditate from time to time.
Sure.
Set up your spells for the day.
Very deep.
Mm-hmm. So for you two,
get away from the smell from that fish gut stew.
Let's see. You're under Veravale. You're under Patch Salt, right? The Drow who, for some reason, just doesn't like you.
Yeah, I just glare back at her.
For some reason.
The wind dies down at night. It's not quite as windy as it was in the day.
Texas.
And yeah. And you seem to be heading more in a straight direction now, and not doing this tack back and forth thing, which makes your work a little bit easier. But she gives you, she asks you to do some upper rigging work. She's like, I need you to go up to the very top, and I need you up there to make sure nothing gets caught. But make sure you're moving about. If I see you sitting in one place, I'm going to think you're sleeping, and then you'll be in trouble. You know what we do to people who are in trouble.
No. Should I know?
Well, why don't you go rap on that metal chest at the front of the ship? The great big thing that looks like it doesn't belong here? He's still in there, although now it's, the sun has set, and it's cooler outside, but you can tell there's just heat radiating from this thing.
I got your point.
So do your work.
Yeah.
She doesn't really exactly tell you what your work is, except moving around in the rigging up really high.
She wants you to fall.
She wants me to fall.
That's probably a safe bet. So, why don't you give me a...
I'm sure if you do fall, you're over the water, not the ship.
Sharks. Lovely.
You still at least have a chance.
Why don't you give me a... Well, let me ask you this. What's your goal
Are you going to do your job, or are you going to try to sneak around?
So I'll do my job because I don't want to piss my boss off, but I also want to try to befriend Gato because like from where I am, like I like take notice of like his shoulder and I'm like I kind of feel like bad for him that it happened. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that
Well,
doesn't.
no one knows what happened.
You probably wouldn't know
Well,
what
like
happened.
I
but
still see it, but like I
Yeah.
can tell, but like I have like to feel like I don't think that's.
yeah, you saw him at the bar, during the bar fight, and he was he had all his fur.
Yeah, exactly.
And
then
now
I
there's
see it,
this
I'm
big
like, oh,
burn,
something
and
must
it's-
have happened.
It's clearly like some kind of an acid burn.
Yeah,
You
so
can
that's
just
why
see
I
it.
wanted to try to befriend him so
Sure.
I could find out.
So he's a swab and you're a rigger, but you can, and you've been told to stay up high in the rigging.
Maybe I'll just go. Hey, Gato! Gato!
Well, I'll be like, here's the thing. Are you trying to talk to me personally, or do you want everyone on the deck to hear you?
I didn't
Because
think
where you are,
Why
I'm
is
not.
it that whispering?
I can't hear you unless you're shouting.
Yeah.
Do I have anything that I could throw at him?
Oh yeah.
That way, I won't. That way, like, I don't have to talk really loud to, like, try to get his attention. I'll just throw something at him and see if that gets his attention.
Sure. I mean, you can get his attention, but for you to stay in the rigging and him to stay on the deck
Hence.
and you to have a conversation, it's going to be loud enough that several people can hear it.
Okay, so.
But you can swing down in the rigging,
But. Okay.
or he can try to climb up.
We played that game first night.
Oh, sure that.
We got up there a little ways, so did.
I'll probably do my job and then talk to him afterwards. That way, like, I'll still be doing my job, but at least afterwards, when I'm done with it, then it'll be easier to talk with him without the rest of the ship hearing it. So I'll be like, I'll just work and talk to him later. I just see him and I'm like, I'll just work and talk to him later.
Okay. Give me a climb check.
11.
Okay. And give me a dexterity check. You don't have profession sailor, do you?
No.
Okay. Dexterity.
12.
I like that.
12?
Yeah.
Okay. You feel like, well, first of all, you don't fall and die.
Woohoo!
And you climb around in the rigging, and you're careful, but you're also quick about it. And so you do what you think is probably a pretty good job of manning the upper rigging. And it's scary because you're not just doing like all the rigging here. You're moving back and forth between different. Yeah. So, but you do a fantastic job, and you start to feel a little bit more at home on the ship. I guess I should have you make a check against the seasickness since you're not a sailor.
Yeah.
But we'll say that since the boat isn't rocking back and forth right now, and it's all just kind of one direction with a steady wind, we'll leave it there.
Alright.
Gato, you are told by Narwhal Tate that you need to do a really good job today or tonight of some deck work. He doesn't have you swabbing so much the whole time. I mean, every once in a while when there's nothing else to do, he'll look at you and say, "Why is that mop just sitting there? Huh? Pick it up and do something." But for the most part, your work is hauling rope and tying knots. You've got to get some rope from down below decks and bring it up, and then make sure that the knots around the deck are tight, and making little adjustments here and there, but not a lot of adjustments since you're going steadily in one direction. So give me make a sailor check for me.
28. Or no, I have 6, so 18 is. I was looking at the 10. So 24.
24. That's a pretty good job. So he works you hard, and he's obviously got it out for you, but you do a good job of doing all the things he said. But it really is a lot of work, and hauling that rope, like, you almost feel like it's personal, where he's going, oh look, here's a peg leg. Let's send him down to get the rope and bring it up the stairs, right? There's a lot of up and down stairs kind of work going on. So make a Constitution check.
Straight Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
15 with a 20 on top of it.
Okay. You work hard, but you are not winded. You feel like you can do another good day's work. As you're doing your work and you're coming up the stairs, pretty close to the end of your shift, you figure, because the horizon's starting to get that purplish glow, and you're coming up the stairs with another 2 loads of rope, and all of a sudden the ship just jerks one way, and you make a reflex check for me.
Always lands on his foot.
I have a 20 with a 20 on top of it.
What?
I do a pirouette during the midst of the turbulence.
And then you actually use the ship, like, once it kind of slows this way, it sort of grinds to a point where it's not tilting forward anymore, and it rocks back, and you use that to kind of launch you up and out through the doors, and you can see that
Doves fly off.
you can see there's a lot of people on the ground. A lot of people fell because of whatever it is, and it feels like the ship hit something, right? Sometimes a ship will run into like a sandbar or a coral reef or something, and it just starts dragging along. But you didn't hear the sound that usually accompanies that, right? There's usually this deep, low groaning and scraping sound, right? And there wasn't that. You could make a perception check, see if you can
Do
figure
we
out what
all
it is.
hear?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and
So.
those of you who are like sleeping down below, you wake up. Now you're in your cots, so they just kind of shift with it, but nothing bad.
16.
What you hear is the sound. You thinking back on it, there's the sound of chains moving through something, being pulled through like a hole or whatever, and that's the sound that happened right before this sudden lurch. You're actually up in the rigging, so make a reflex check for me.
Oh no.
Oh, I got 7.
7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least fall into the water.
Start rolling your next character.
So you tumble out of the rigging, and since you were in the upper rigging,
Oh my
you take some damage.
god.
Roll 3d6 for me.
13.
Yep. How many hit points do you have?
12.
Ow.
Uh-huh. Alright. So those of you who are awake,
Give me my dice back before she succumbs to her wounds.
you see Verabale falls out of the rigging, and she hits a couple of ropes, a couple of lines on the way down, which sends her into this ragdoll spin.
I'm gonna get a concussion.
And when she hits the deck, no,
Yeah.
you're beyond the concussion. When she hits the deck, it's bad.
Oh.
Her body is twisted in ways that it shouldn't twist, and she just lays there.
Oh, I'm done.
And you see this. She's sort of laid out in the middle of everything there, and you see this just as you come up out of the bust open the doors.
Okay. So, if I, so where exactly does she land on the ship? So I've just come out the
I'm
door, so I'm
smack
over
dab
here.
in the middle.
So where does she land?
Somewhere over here.
Okay. So, what can I do? Because I have my heal spell and also have heal skill. So what can I do with my heal skill?
Okay. So the heal skill is for you to basically be able to tell something about somebody who's wounded, right? It's basically a medicine check. You can use, I think you can use the heal skill to do a little bit of healing.
I think it can like stabilize or something.
You can do first aid, or long-term care, treat wounds, or treat poison or treat disease.
What would first aid do?
So first aid would allow you to just stabilize her.
And treat wounds?
Treating wounds would be like setting a bone, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Right? Or stitching up.
If I do stuff like that, would that increase their overall HP at all? Or... Okay, first
You know,
thing
hit points is an abstraction, so
yeah, okay.
it could.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to basically analyze.
Okay, so you come up at, you see her just splat all over, and you drop your ropes. You run over to her. Several other people come running over to her. A lot of people are getting up off of the ground at the same time. So go ahead and make your heal check to do your analysis.
15 with a 20 on top.
Golly.
Yeah. So you kind of feel through bones and whatever and do some checking, and you can tell that there's that she's unconscious, but she's not dead. She is bleeding from a wound where her bone has cracked and poked through her skin. Probably the collarbone.
Is the if I'm analyzing the bleeding, is it more important for me to set the bone first or stop the bleeding?
I don't know.
Well, is
I don't
it
know.
spurting?
It's not spurting. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably not an
Set the
artery.
bone.
All right. Well, so if it's just like bleeding like a wound, like a cut or something, like if it doesn't look major, I'm gonna attempt to set any broken bones I found.
Do it. I'm gonna have to learn more about medicine to DM this.
22 with a 20 on it.
Gosh, I'm taking my dice back.
What the heck?
Are those mine?
Only one of them.
Is that the good one?
No, that's the lowest one.
Oh.
You put your hands on her and you just kind of twist
and she goes
bend.
back to full health.
No, but you feel like you got that bone back in place.
Okay.
But you know you're gonna have to do something to keep it in place.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to. Are there any like bandaging materials readily available, or do I need to like use like part of like my rope or something? Has anyone else brought any first aid equipment over?
So-
help me. Well, definitely my boss isn't gonna help.
Yeah.
She hates
He's
my,
probably one of
she
the
hates,
Actually,
she hates
so-
my guts.
At this point, the little halfling with the two hatchets.
Is he the boring one from the bar, or is he somebody that was
No,
on the,
he was
on
not at the
crew?
bar.
Okay, he's on
He's
the
part
crew.
of the crew. And he comes up right out of the hatch where you came out, and he runs over and he's like, "What's happened? Fell out of the rigging, eh?"
It would appear that way.
What? And he opens up his pouch and he pulls out some like white linen strips. He's like, "Oh, let me in here. I can get it from here. Thank you."
Okay, so he does the rest of the bandaging job. Then I'm going to use my Cure Light Wounds.
Mm-hmm. What is that? A D8 plus something?
+1.
Well, do I have to make a check to see if I do it, or can
No.
it just automatically pops?
You do it.
D8 plus your caster level,
Okay.
up to 5.
3.
So you heal her up. Since she was only one below, she took 13 damage. She had 12 hit points. You heal her up, and she wakes up. You put your hands on her. You speak your prayer, and your hands glow, and you feel that life come back
Your
into
hands
you.
glow. So would that be 4 then for her instead of 3?
So yeah, you would heal. If you want to use your blessing, it would heal her 4 points, which would bring her back to 3 hit points.
Yeah, I'll do that. Since I have both Air Bubble and Cure Light Wounds memorized,
Yeah.
can I have used that spell on my Air Bubble and I still have a Cure Light Wounds
Yeah.
that I can also empower?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's fine.
So I used my Air Bubble then for the first one. And like I said, since I have Cure Light Wounds
Okay.
memorized anyway,
Yeah.
like I said, if it's not against the rules, I'll cast that next as itself
Right.
and
But
empower it with my blessing.
If you can do that, but if you do it that way, then you're saying that you can only cast Cure Light Wounds, but if you if you do it, if you cast your Cure Light Wounds now on her, then you'll have your air bubble still, which you could use, and you could also turn that into a Cure Light Wounds.
Yeah, either way. Basically, what I'm saying is, no matter how I go about it, I can basically do 2 Cure Light Wounds spells right now.
Yes, but if you cast your Cure Light Wounds that you have memorized now, then you'll still have your air bubble or a Cure Light Wounds. If you cast your air bubble as a Cure Light Wounds now, then you'll still have Cure Light Wounds only.
Alright, then we'll go with the Cure Light Wounds then that I've already cast.
Yeah.
Then I will use my air bubble spell as my second Cure Light Wounds.
If you need it, or are you doing that right now?
I'll do it right now.
Oh, okay. Well, then that whole conversation didn't need to happen.
You're
I thought you
a
were
now.
saving it. All right.
No, I was thinking if I could like pop them back to back.
Yeah, you can do that.
Is it it runs the same D8 plus what?
D8 plus 1,
Plus one.
and then plus half. I'm assuming you'll want to empower it.
Yeah. Plus half of
Didn't
the
you
roll.
already
or
take
half
the
of
empower on the other one?
I have 3 blessings a day though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now I've burned through both my first level spells and 2 of my blessings. I still have 1 blessing and all of my 0 level
You
spells.
must like you.
I hope.
And 1.
Oh.
Plus 1, so 2. Plus
Plus
half
1.
the roll or
So 3 more.
3 more. Well, you're back up to 6. I brought you back halfway.
Yeah. You feel...
I brought you back from death to
Significantly
halfway
better.
alive.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that there's that pain in your collarbone where it's broken, but you can feel that it's already beginning to mend. And you open your eyes from this really disorienting, spinning, crashing fall that clearly knocked you out. And you open your eyes and you got this little hobbit there, little halfling dude, like wrapping you up with his bandages, and then you've got Gato there, looking all cat-like, putting his paws on you, and you feel
Your hands
that.
were glowing. He said it a while ago.
Yeah, you feel that energy, that spiritual energy
I'm like
empowering
at this point,
you.
I'm just like kind of blinking and staring at Gato, and I'm like, well, I think I'm just staring, and now I'm thinking, well, this is probably not the best circumstance.
Those of us
to
that
be.
were down in the bunks, do we all come up, or are we just hanging? I mean,
I mean, it's up to you. It would probably
Well, 'cause
wake you
remember
up.
I said
Right,
like, I
but-
wanted
but
to
when-
befriend you.
because I'm not
I
going to
just
know any
didn't
better,
expect
but
it
is
to
anyone
happen
else
this way.
that's
That's what
down
I-
there gonna
I know you said
feel like
I
let's
know
go up
that,
and see
but
what
I wanted
happened,
to
or they just
befriend
like,
you.
nah, it's nothing to worry
I wanted
about.
to befriend you.
The
It's just
veterans.
I didn't think this
Um,
by doing this way would have ended up that way.
The veterans would probably get up and come up because they know that that's not normal.
Okay, so then go up.
Okay.
I'll go up as well.
Because
Alright.
if there was anchor or chains, I'm sure we heard it down there.
Oh yeah.
And then we hear probably this huge thud on top of us, you know.
Yeah.
When we go up, will I see her? That this commotion
Her?
is going on? Yes.
Yeah. You can see there's a lot of people gathered around her.
Okay, I'll go look.
And you can hear like Mr. Plug is well, no, it would be Mr. Plug at night. It's Crimson Cogward, and he's yelling, go and raise the anchor back up. Get the capstan going. Raise the anchor back up.
Am I still on the floor?
Oh yeah, you're on the floor and they're healing you. So
Okay.
a couple people move forward. This big guy, the half orc that's like that. He seems to be a more yellow color now than he was back in the bar. And he already looked sickly. He's there, pushing that thing around, and then Mahim comes down, and kind of the muscular people, Narwhal goes over there, and they start pushing the capstan to raise the anchor back up. And once the anchor they get it to a certain point going around, you can feel the ship sort of lurch forward again, the wind picks it up, and you start moving again, but they continue for another few minutes to do that, to raise this anchor all the way up.
So yeah, I would
So
probably
I'm gonna
come
be
up.
like,
But
do you guys need any help? Looking down at Kay, and is she okay? Looking at you, because I'm assuming you're the one laying hands on her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've
Is she
already.
okay?
I think she will be fine eventually. She needs to rest.
Because I can help.
the witch.
She's halfway alive.
Well, let me see if I can help with that. 4.
4 hit points.
4 hit points.
Okay. So
And
the sea witch comes over and you feel the power of the where his felt more like a radiant power. This feels more like the deep sea sort of ebb and flow of the depths of the sea
Mine is warm. Hers is
moving
cold.
through you. I wouldn't say it's cold. It's just it's deep. But yeah, you get 4 more hit points back, so you're up to what? 10?
10 out of 12.
Not bad.
Golly, you got as many as I do.
You see what happened last night? I got acid dumped on me. I was
I
like,
guess
oh,
now
piggy.
I'm
are
still.
you feeling okay, or do you need me to try again?
I think I'm still trying to come to. I'm
You-
still
you
trying
probably-
to
You're almost better.
With 2 hit points missing, you probably feel like you have a couple bruises.
Yeah, you feel much better.
Okay.
In fact, the bone seems to just be
Whoa.
like
Kind of knitted back
almost
together.
yeah.
You
knitted
have
back
a you have a
together.
stubbed toe at this point.
Teamwork.
Whoa. What happened? All I remember is black.
Yeah, what did happen?
Yeah, what's happened? We're all kind of looking out.
Who dropped the anchor?
Is that what that was?
That's what sounded like a change.
Wait a minute.
Who are you asking?
I'm thinking both of them.
I'm just kind of speaking out loud. I'm
they're
just kind of
General,
looking
yeah,
through.
looking
I'm like,
around.
Well, I guess.
who dropped the anchor?
I'm assuming we're all in a little
Yeah, like they're
circle.
they're still like above me, so I'm like looking at the 2 of them now, and I'm like more clearly, and I'm like, wait, you guys look familiar.
Yeah.
Have I-
Make a perception check.
So you're trying to figure out what happened? Make a make a perception check.
I mean, yeah, we all heard it. We all came
Yeah.
up and like, what's going on?
I noticed nothing.
Bro.
Snap. I got a 1.
That's
like
a
3.
DM prerogative.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, we're on
Oh,
a boat?
wait, I have a +8 on that. So 10 with my +8.
And either a crit or a critical fail.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Like, whether you
again,
pass or fail, like in terms
I
of
have a
critical
20
either
on
way.
one end, a 1. I've got a natural 20, a natural 1. I've got a 2. But I have a +8 on perception, so that would be a 10.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah,
Flip a coin.
So
it's his call.
you're pretty sure that the old lady, the fortune teller lady, she just looks really suspicious to you right now. Like there's just the way that she's looking around at all the
She's
stuff
not the
that's
drow, is
happening.
she?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. I can't
No.
remember.
The drow, that's the drow. That's the fortune
Yeah,
teller
okay.
lady. The fortune teller lady is Varisian.
Okay.
And she's obviously an old lady. But she just looks really, really shifty. And you can tell
I can
that
tell anything.
yeah,
Okay.
you can tell that the yellowish orc that's there, kind of helping to raise the capstan back up. He looks guilty.
Sit here and watch for the rest of the game.
There's something about his face that looks super guilty. Other than that, like that's really all you can figure out. It's clear that the anchor was dropped.
Yeah.
I don't trust that little woman over there.
Okay. Pulling up anchor looks a little bit suspicious.
I don't know. I think it looks okay to me. That woman, though.
Well,
Just-
there's
I
something
wouldn't
about
trust her.
He looks guilty.
You don't trust her? Meaning you trust someone?
So the ship kind of gets back to normal, right? It starts moving forward. They get the capstan wound all the way up. The anchor's brought back up.
As all the kind of commotion kind of dies down, I grab my ropes from where I picked them up and I continue about what I was doing.
Okay. And the rest of the night passes relatively uneventfully. I assume that everybody
back
who
to
was
my
in
bunk,
bed
yeah.
goes back to bed. Crimson Cog, the guy that's up there steering the ship, he tells everybody to get back to what they were doing before. Everything's, let's get back to work. So, you do. We're back to bed. anything that you want to do? Other people are awake at this point, but they're going back to bed. If you want to.
Well, I've already talked to my boss about getting my weapons back, gotten Rosie's violin back, so I'm probably just going back to bed at this point. I'm kind of keeping him in my mind and what you said about her, but
Anything that end of the night, right? The sun starts coming up, and the food is brought up. It's more of the same. It's that hardtack with a little bit of broth. You would have to bring that up, but you know it's time for the shift to change, so you get the food ready.
Sorry, guys.
And so there's that transition period.
Kato has a hairball.
He obviously ate it.
Yeah, you hear this horrible sound coming from inside the metal chest. Whoever's in there is not doing well. As the air begins to warm back up, and yeah, the first rays of sun shine over the horizon, landing on the big metal chest.
Oof.
Yeah,
Should have been here, Joe.
it quickly gets hot inside. So to finish off your night shift, anything you want to do?
You know, as I'm finishing off my shift, I go into the area where, like you said, people are like, you know, sitting around drinking or playing cards or something. I, you know, get myself a drink or whatever, and kind of like just kind of sit down like near where all of them are, and I'm just I basically say, you know, just kind of in general to like the people that are around. So out of curiosity, is there a story with the guy in the cage?
Cutthroat Grok. And now looking at her, you can see why she's called Cutthroat Grok. She has this huge scar right across her neck, right? And she wears her hair like kind of in a mohawk ponytail. It's kind of real short. She keeps it real short on the side, pulls it back. Obviously not concerned with her appearance. But she's happy to go down and drink and gamble. And so you sort of send the question out into the crowd, and she looks at you and she's like, "Oh, I know something about that. It's said that was one old pirate captain, a friend at one point of our captain. But he turned on him, and so our captain killed him. But captain wasn't happy just to leave him dead, so he had some dark spells cast upon his body, and it raised him from the dead, just like that, and he's kept him in that cage there. The real mystery is why his parrot sticks around.
Wow.
Some say the parrot doesn't know the captain's dead yet."
That kind of answered my question, because as we're getting up,
I'm thinking
day.
more familiar.
yeah, the lich.
If there were a lich on this ship, everyone would call it captain.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess what I want to do. Am I only allowed to one thing to do, or like can I do multiple things?
No, you
It's
can.
hangout time.
Okay, because there's like, okay, so
It's time to schmooze.
time to smooth. Okay, so I guess the first thing I want to do.
Shouldn't you be resting?
You did
Oh,
just
that's
fall
too
from the
mid-point.
You
highest.
did just die.
But,
Yeah, and the first thing I want to do before he butted in was I would actually want to try to come up to Gato to thank him for saving my life.
Okay, you find Gato in that kind of the front area just next to where you sleep, right where all the storage is.
Yeah,
People kind of hang out in there on the boxes and the barrels and throw dice or whatever.
I just walked up and like tapped him on the shoulder.
Okay.
That's like the first time when I met him, I just tapped him on his shoulder.
Oh, you're alive again?
Yeah. I just want to say thanks.
Well, no problem. This is what I do.
Yeah, I mean, we had some some time to interact with each other, like the time you turned me into a lantern.
That was fun.
Or
I
yeah.
can do it again.
No,
Like this?
no, I'll save that for another time. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for, not, I could have been dead.
Yeah, but I'm a swab. Then I would have to clean you up.
Okay. Shouldn't think
And you're gonna give lessons on flirting?
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
I'm not the one for it.
Okay.
I just did it because it saved me from having to clean up your guts.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, before I just said it's what I do, and obviously probing for a deeper explanation.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Other from that, I kind of noticed your shoulder.
Got burned the other day. Accident.
Well, I do kind of recall seeing you at the Formidable Maid, and I definitely know your shoulder was not like that the first time around.
I guess it happened recently. Accident.
Are you sure it was an accident, or did you do something to
It
make
was
it
an
hurt?
accident to me.
Make an sense motive check.
17?
Make a bluff check.
Oh, just like real life.
6.
He's lying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know it.
So,
You can tell.
yeah.
He's covering something up, but when he says it was an accident, that's not true.
Something tells me.
I said it was an accident to me. I didn't expect it to happen.
He's trying to rationalize it, but you see through it.
Yeah.
Sort of like in real life.
Regardless if it was an accident or if on purpose, whatever you did.
You think I did this on purpose?
I don't. Hey, for all I know, you could have done something that wasn't by accident and it made it like that. So you tell me.
No. I made an accident in speaking to the
You
wrong
made an
person.
Whoa! So there you
I
go. You just admitted it.
boxes.
There you go.
I
There
made-
you go. You just admitted it,
I
buddy.
made an accident by speaking to the wrong person, and then they purposely did this.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
That is
Right.
true.
So your conversation sort of circles around a bit.
Like in real life.
Yeah. It feels like it's more of a swirling and down the drain type
Like
thing.
real life.
I have a Bendigo.
Right. Yeah. But you can tell he's making something up, and he continues to try to cover that up. Many people come, they have to come through the room that you're hanging out in and gambling in and having your conversation in order to get down into the area where they sleep. So a lot of people go down there and they go to sleep, and then it's not quite. You're still in that sort of in-between stage, right? Some people are sleeping, but some people are still up on top partying and whatever, saying goodnight. And then the bell rings. Da-ding, 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 da-ding.
Calling the next shift, I guess.
And you hear, all hands on deck!
Oh.
All hands on deck! And that call is repeated.
Uh-oh.
So everybody gets out,
This isn't good.
and they all come up, and as you get to the top, you get, I assume you will go to the top deck, right? And
I just pretty much stand next to him on the top deck.
everybody's there, and you see Mr. Plug, and he's got Jackie.
It's got the brat.
I think I'm just looking. I think I'm like,
And-
nudge Gato, and I'm like, Gato, isn't that one of the children you helped?
Yes, I tell them not to do anything stupid, and apparently they do something stupid.
So, Mr. Plug says, "Thank you all for coming up. Unfortunately, we've had someone who decided not to follow the rules. And when that happens, on Captain Harrigan's ship, there are consequences. This little brat decided that she would
drop the anchor, and then try to sneak down into Cutthroat Grok's cabin and steal something that does not belong to her. The consequences for this are severe. We take disobedience very seriously. So far, everyone has done a very good job of following the rules, and you will be rewarded for this. In fact, after this bit of entertainment, Cutthroat Grok has been told to return most of your belongings to you, although the weapons we will still hold until we feel secure in our trust of you. But for now, if you please, gentlemen.
And so Master Scourge comes forward with this long rope, and he ties the rope around Jackie's feet, around her ankles, and he goes to the windward side of the ship, and he tosses the rope over, and then Crimson Cogward, the guy that was steering the ship at night, he goes to the other side, and he takes a gaffer hook and dips it down in the water and pulls up the rope, and he gets that wet rope up, and he ties it to her wrists. And they pull the rope as tight as they can, sort of at the front of the ship. Well, right here where there's no rail. And they pull that rope as tight as they can, and they've got her just laying there. And she's like, I didn't do nothing, no. I wasn't trying to. And she's making all these excuses. And Mr. Plug says,
Gentlemen, go ahead and pull.
And so they
I
start.
God, don't do something.
I get their attention. Can I make an offer?
They look at you and they just pull.
I cannot.
So she goes off the side of the
Mr.
ship.
Plug.
Huh?
I'm addressing Mr. Plug.
All right.
There will be no offer. There's no negotiating with the captain's rules. You break the rules, you suffer the consequences.
Oh God.
That's the way things work here. Otherwise, it's chaos.
So you would not see me surrender my reward to you in exchange for some kind of bargain.
You hear the splash of her hitting the water, and together the two guys are pulling on this rope. They pull together, both of them, one, and then pull again.
Keelhauled
I'm
is.
just
She's
standing next to him, coming
Yeah.
around like, oh my
So-
God.
That goes on, and Mr. Plug goes,
Let us all enjoy the entertainment, shall we?
I'm just doing this to him, and I'm like, oh God, I got luck.
and so yeah, there's all kind of the new people are all like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And everybody's shocked, but they're kind of too scared to say anything. And Mr. Plug just dismisses your attempts to intervene at all. And it takes them a very long time, and they actually sing this kind of a slow dirge as they're doing it, and they pull the rope in time, and it's something about Besmara actually is the dirge, and how what the sea has made, let no one unmake. Besmara takes only what's hers to take, and they just go through this motion, and by the time it's a couple of minutes before the body comes back up, and she's just ripped to shreds. Clearly, barnacles on the bottom of the ship have torn her up. Yeah, it's a death sentence, and she's dead. And so immediately, Sandara Quinn runs over, and she takes her hat off, and she begins praying to Besmara, and you see her hands light up, and you see this kind of a blue, oceany sort of aura about her. And as she goes to put her hands on the body of this dead girl, Master Scourge grabs her by the wrist, and he just looks at her and he says,
Not today, lass. What the sea has made, let no one unmake. This one belongs to Besmara.
and he cuts the ropes, and he kicks the body over the side. And then there's just silence on the ship, and you can hear just sobs, just these low sobs begin. And you look, and there's Jack, and his whole body is just convulsing.
go over to him.
And this is this?
You console him.
Are we still at the transition between night and day, or day and night?
We're at the transition between night and day. This is really, it was the end of your shift, and you were already down, like,
I
gambling,
was
right?
crying to his shoulder.
And, yeah, so it's time for you to go to bed, and it's a very somber mood.
I'm
Right
just
now.
walking back down with him.
And so Mr. Plug rings the bell.
I'm
He's
just walking
like-
back down crying.
Back to your stations.
Alright, so Jack, is he day or night shifts
As
and what does he
the
do?
So Jack was a nighttime
Okay.
rigger.
so, if I take advantage of basically the people milling back out to bed, the people starting their shift, would it be possible for me to slip overboard unnoticed? And if I did so, would I be able to climb back up into the ship?
It entirely depends on how you attempt to do it and your skill. But if you're trying to like get that body, you're gonna have a lot working against you because you gotta move fast and there's like everybody's still there.
I'll leave it be.
Alright, you see
I'll see if the last one takes my advice now.
you see the ship, the ship sails away and you can just see that body floating there and the red in the water spreading out from all the tears on her back.
How fast is the ship moving?
Let's see. Make a sailor check.
20.
15 knots.
15 knots. So,
Which is it's pretty fast.
it is pretty fast.
It's faster than you could swim.
It's faster than I can swim. How long are these lengths of rope I've been hauling up from a galley all day?
They're long.
Long enough, say... Okay, so basically, if I... if I'm basically just acting like I'm still doing rigging, if I tie one off to the closest end of the ship trailing, how far will it reach?
Probably about 3 ship's lengths.
Okay, and how far are we away from the body at this time?
Alright, so here's the deal. If you're trying to tie this thing off, and obviously it's not like part of the rigging, you're gonna have to make like a sleight of hand check, and that DC is gonna be pretty high because you're doing it fast.
And everybody's on deck.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing it fast.
Okay.
I'm just basically acting like I'm still just basically doing my last task for the night.
Yeah, so make a sleight of hand check because it's not gonna. Nobody would think that was your. That's not a
Like a
normal
swab,
thing to
yeah.
do to just tie off one end of this coil of rope.
It would be if I was going to toss it up into the rigging for them to gather the sails.
Except you would drop it from the rigging first, usually.
If you haven't already noticed, I do things a little differently.
Yeah, you do.
I purify my own seawater and scrub the deck with it.
All right, make a sleight of hand check, or a sailor check if you don't care if somebody notices.
So 14.
Okay.
A couple people might notice me, but
Yeah, and Narwhal notices you, and Narwhal comes over and
I notice that he notices me before he comes over.
make a perception check.
I have a 9.
So you just feel a hand on your shoulder, and you look up, and there's the huge nose and the scar on his eye. Narwhal just says, "It's not worth it. It's not worth it."
And I say, "It's not worth what?" As I toss the rope up into the rigging.
He looks up there,
This
and there's
is
like
all spectacular.
absolutely no reason for you to be doing that.
Well, there's knots down on the deck. I've been doing deck work all day, where I've
Yeah.
been adjusting knots. So
Yeah.
obviously I'm doing something down here on
Sure.
the deck. I'm trying to make this look like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
And he just looks at you and he's like, "You got to let it go, lad. Let's get back down below and get to sleep. It's the best thing we can do for anyone. Let the dead tend to themselves. And let those who live, live.
Is the next still long for emotional trauma?
Aye, lad. Let's go get some. So you go downstairs and he opens up. He's got a footlocker down there, as most of the crew do, the standard crew, the regular crew. And he opens up his footlocker and he pulls out a little flask. He's like, "It's not much, but it's dwarven."
Ooh.
And he pours it, about half the flask, into your cup. And he takes the other half to himself.
Gutless trio.
Okay, so I'm guessing at this point I'm guessing at this point if we're having drinks together, we probably made it down to where the crew hangs out after hours.
Yeah,
Do I see my boss there, like the person in charge of the night swaps?
you're talking to him.
Oh, that's what I'm talking to?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like,
Notes.
so basically like we're sitting there like, you know, after what he said, like I can tell like, you know, it seems like he knows where I was coming from. He's just telling me don't get myself put in the same situation.
The first time you've seen compassion in him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
mostly
okay.
he's mocked you and degraded you.
Okay.
But now there's genuine compassion here.
So basically, I will ask him what kind of offer would I be able to make that could possibly buy even the captain's attention. In other words, if you had to carry no drinking water on the ship, how much space would that free up for me?
We've got several barrels of fresh water, but we can always haul up more seawater and just turn it into fresh water.
They have the capabilities of doing that?
Are you asking him?
Yeah, basically, I thought
You got your fresh water from the port, and
Nay.
you have a way to purify the sea? How do you do this?
Oh, well, that's Peppery Longfarthing. She's the alchemist. Yeah. She can do it.
She's got purified food and drink.
Am I still around?
Are you?
Well, after crying on his shoulder,
Yeah.
I think before I go back to our class, I was gonna do the second thing I had in mind was, like, I was thinking about going into the lab and trying to befriend Peppery.
Okay.
At least you're not a kid.
Well, yeah, but I also, but I guess like I also like just read that like possibly it might be a good idea because like rat folk kind of are okay with half elves.
Okay.
I guess.
Sure, you can.
I'm gonna try and see what happens.
Okay, so
I see you walking towards that direction and be like,
I would recommend knocking first.
Oh, gee, thank you. I'll take that into account, even though I was already doing that.
So you go up the stairs through the galley, where the cook is asleep and drooling on himself, and his chicken is asleep next to him.
Okay, I'm gonna knock, even before he told me to.
You hear some shuffling inside, and then the door opens, and there's the old man, that really old man from the inn. He's in there, and he's got a book in his hands, and he brings his glasses down, and he's like, "Hey, yes."
Hello.
Hello.
Is there a person in there by the name of Peppery?
Oh, yes, yes. She's asleep.
What else is there?
Oh. Is there any way I can like talk, like have a quick chat with her, just say hi, introduce myself?
Oh, well,
She's got a bad temper.
you might
Yeah, got him.
you might want to wait until she wakes.
When exactly would that be?
Well, she's could be any time. She has been asleep for quite a while. She let me into her library, so I've just been in here reading.
Okay.
Fascinating things. She has some great works on alchemy. New methods of making alchemist's fire I'd never even heard of before. You know, many of the ingredients necessary for that only exist on the mainland, so that she's been able to do something like this at sea is really amazing.
You're really captivated by the sorry pops.
Yes. Does this not interest you?
Actually, it kind of does.
It's incredibly groundbreaking. Or should I say, sea-breaking?
Alright.
Because there's no ground. It's a little nautical joke.
No. Whatever floats your boat.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Oh, we should be quiet. We should be quiet.
Yeah. Okay, so
Should be louder.
We're not there. Yeah.
So is it possible that I keep talking with him to the point that like it kind of makes Peppery like rustle with the
You intentionally,
Laugh a
unintentionally
little louder than...
wake her up. Yeah. Make a bluff check.
Oh jeez, I hope this works. So I got 18.
18 on your bluff check.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, I didn't
Oh,
wake up.
yeah. So she wakes up. You sort of unintentionally
Oh my
speak
gosh,
loud enough
I am
to.
so sorry to wake you up. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, that's quite all right. Is there something wrong?
Anybody can come in.
No, I
Freaking
just
racist.
wanted to come down and say hi.
Oh, hello.
I've been talking to the nice gentleman over here, and
Oh, Klaus. Yes.
yes, he says you have some very fascinating books.
Oh, Klaus. If that's a flatterer.
Well, all I want to do is just say hi. My name's Veravale, and I was hoping, like we can just slowly get to know each other and eventually become friends.
Oddly specific.
She her whiskers twitch as she talks, and she skitters out of bed, and the way that she moves around the room, she's very small, and the room is not made for someone who's very small, but she just sort of skitters up table legs and jumps from chairs to shelf tops, and it's like her size is almost an advantage because it allows her to just move around. The room is her playground, and so you see her moving around and sort of checking on her concoction that's bubbling on the stove, and then checking the other end of it. Immediately, she's at the other end watching it drip out.
And I'm just standing there like watching because
Format.
like I think I'm just like, if anything, I'm like just standing watching because like I am kind of curious. I'm
It's
like,
a meth rat.
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a meth rat.
And Klaus actually begins to talk to her about some of the things that he found in some of her books, and he's asking her questions. And so she begins to answer his question. They're talking on this sort of academic level above your head, and it appears that they have forgotten that you're there.
No.
Oh, yes. Was there something that you... Can I help you?
Aside from what you two are doing,
She continues to run around and do.
I can't
She's
help
doing.
but mention about you two seem like you're having a very interesting chat. So, again, I just came up wanting to say hi, and hopefully we can become friends. So, yeah,
And what was your name?
Veravale.
Veravale. I'm Peppery Longfarthing.
And I'm Klaus.
Hello, Klaus.
It's
You
very nice to meet you.
got great fun. You got great fun there.
Yes, I try.
Okay, so I'll let you guys be. Hopefully we can try to strike up a friendship among the three of us. So
So
do I?
Klaus tells Peppery about the great pun that he made, and she laughs at it. And
I know.
Yeah.
This is made up.
Does he tell her about the one that I said back to him?
No, but I mean,
No.
they were really
Aw.
downstairs when they were doing it.
no,
I
he's
just
just
hear it.
he's
God, I'm lying.
proud of
I
his
feel
own
like I can
pun.
hear everything.
Alright, fine. I'll let him have it.
But I
You
like
know,
an
I'm thinking
eyesight
in my
in
head,
it
I
for
said
hearing.
would too, but I'll let it have it this time.
You leave them to their academia. And do you go to sleep?
I kind of want to like go up to Gato and like nudge him, saying, "Hey, guess what?
Okay, he's passed out.
Damn it! Oh well, I guess I go to sleep then."
I mean, he's like, you nudge him and he is just in a deep sleep.
Yeah.
Whatever
It's
that
hard.
dwarf gave you.
No.
Oh yeah, you had
Yeah, I mean, you worked a hard day.
Yeah.
He worked you hard,
No.
but then he gave you, that
No,
was the
even
good
just
good.
trying
I
to
said that was some good
even,
rum.
even just
No, that wasn't
trying to
rum.
wake him up from a nap
Oh.
is
Dwarven ale.
That was some kind of
Yeah.
a dwarven liquor.
even just
was-
trying
it
to wake
was
him up
diluted.
from a nap is something else.
Huh? Alright, so you guys are asleep. Jack cries himself to sleep.
We're day shift though, so we're getting
Wait,
ready
do-
to go on.
Okay, so
You're getting ready to go
I'm
on.
starting to
Yeah.
go to sleep, but do I
Better
hear
of
it?
that.
You would actually, you would be starting your shift before all of
But
this
do I-
takes place, because they're doing this at basically your
Yeah.
sleep time.
But do I?
Wait, so
But do I hear him cry since he's on night shift with us?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I guess since I'm kind of not, since I like just got downstairs, like I hear him, I go up to him and like,
Well, no, I'm going to say that he's probably asleep before you get down there, because you're off
Himself
doing
to
other
sleep.
things.
alright,
Yeah.
alright.
He's going to go to sleep pretty quickly just because he's had such a rough
Stress,
day.
yeah.
I tell him if he needs me, I'll be in the galley.
Okay.
And come find me.
We just kind of pat him.
He doesn't. He kind of nods his head, but mostly he's just snotting all over himself.
Shocked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been there before.
How sad.
Been in
Ugly
that place
crying.
before. Ugly crying.
So
Yeah.
much ugly crying.
No, not him.
Her.
I thought you were
That's
tearing
all
up.
the
when
fault of
that-
them.
Yeah, I know, but she's
Huh?
she's
I
just
thought
a
you were
kid.
tearing up when all that happened, but I think it's glitter. Like on your cheek right here.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Like legit me, not
Yeah.
my character? Oh.
Yeah.
No, I knew this was gonna happen.
Well, I figured
actually.
as much. But
yeah, it was too
that's
it
what
was
I'm
too
saying.
well
But
thought out.
still, I mean, I thought maybe you were just truly invested in that
Yeah.
character. But then I'm like, oh no, I think it's glitter.
Yeah, it's glitter. That's it. It's
Oh,
I have
I
thought
got
that
glitter in
one.
my eye.
I
Alright, let
glitter.
me take a break. And then we'll start your shift. Or will we?
I don't know.